is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things that they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to wear them.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have no doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have no doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts. And I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. We're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. I am likely going to be starting off at the gate possibly upsetting some folks, but it is what it is. I know people don't really care for when I call other people out, but all I can say is it's two-part. One part is I'm doing anything I can to prevent others from stumbling. That's one thing. The other thing is, dude needs called out. Plain and simple, he needs called out. And he doesn't get it. It's right in front of his face. And he doesn't get it. So, I actually had to chuckle earlier when I saw a little video put out by Bear Independent. And I don't know who it is that he was replying to. I'm pretty positive it wasn't me because the context of what he was saying. But I'm going to double down on what I'm saying. He was talking about how people shouldn't be rebuking him and blah, 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 and how Elohim has him on a different path than whoever it was he was referring to. As if that's supposed to somehow excuse him from God's word? I'm pretty sure, regardless of the path that the Father has sent each of us on, which I will agree is absolutely independent, separate paths, there's no doubt about that. There is still some general guidelines that apply to every single one of us. It doesn't matter who you are not excused from this. And that is this boisterous, I'm a God myself attitude that he's got. It's unbelievable. It really, truly is unbelievable. And I know he had talked the other day on one of his lives about, he had asked people, he'd asked people about dreaming. He was talking about something else and referring to how there's a number of people that have came and gone from essentially, I assume, his location. And he just doesn't seem to get it. His bullshit is so thick at this point, it's unbelievable. Earlier I heard him going on about making kits, I guess, I don't know, I'm assuming for the Secret Service or something, because he mentioned the feeble old man in the White House. And just how, I don't even know the word to put on it, because it is such egregious bullshit. I don't want anybody to stumble. And boy, is he sure leading them off a cliff. Please hear me when I say that absolutely no one of us, not a single one of us, has the permission to stick our head up above everybody else and elevate ourselves. I don't give a damn what path the Father has sent him on. That is a rule that applies to all of us. And it is getting to the point to where I think it's going to cause a lot of people issue, because what are they going to do? Well, they're going to copy what they see. And so now you've got the individuals that are copying what they see him do stumbling, because guess what? They're not given the special permission to do that either. And it's really frustrating, because if you watch the chat, that is largely what happens. You got a bunch of people sticking their chest up in the chat. And yes, that bothers me. And he went on about people rebuking him. Well, you know what? He rebukes plenty. I think that's really interesting how he rebukes all the time. But nobody's supposed to rebuke him? Why? And I've got one thing to say to you, TJ Morris. Stop me. Stop me. That's an open invitation. I'll give you my damned address. Stop me. Because let me tell you something. There are a whole lot of people out here. Well, maybe not a whole lot. But there's a fair amount of people out here that's done things. Been places. Know things. You don't see them sticking their head up all high, do you? You know why? Because in many cases, many of those things are things that would like to be forgotten. And I can tell you, TJ Morris, for a fact, that the more that people do in that line of work, the less they want to think about it, the less they want to act like it, the less they want anything to do with it. I know people, and we'll just say that's been in the business, that were in it for a relatively short amount of time, and they have spent a lifetime trying to forget. And that, sir, is how I know just how full of shit that you are. Open invitation. You want to stop me from rebuking you? Come and stop me. Otherwise, open up the damn book you're always preaching about and reread about how you're supposed to act. Because you're causing people to stumble. I don't give two shits what you do. I don't care if you drive off a frickin' bridge. I don't care. My problem is when it affects other people. And it's gotten to the point, man, because I see it in your chats. It's gotten to the point, man, where people are trying to mimic you. They're trying to copy you. And if you can't see where that's wrong, if you can't see the problem, the issue with that, you need to get on your knees and you need to talk to the Father about it. Because I have. I've talked to the Father about a whole hell of a lot of stuff. And I know that's one thing that he is adamant about, and that covers every single living soul on this planet. We're not excused from those rules because we got a big business. We're not excused from those rules because we have a big following. Don't bullshit me and try to tell me that that's the path that you are on. That that's the path that he laid out for you. Did you ever think that the people that are walking away from your camp might be walking away because they don't want to listen to it anymore? They're probably not going to tell you. They're probably just going to, whatever way they can, just leave. I'll end with this, and I speak from experience with this. Keep that head up high above everybody else. If there's one lesson I learned really well from the Father, is that he will giveth, and he damn well will taketh away. Now, again, it's your bridge. You choose to drive off of it or not. My concern is all those people that's in the back seat that you're taking off the bridge with you. That is not cool. The other day you did another stream about power. No mention of how people can provide themselves with power, aside from solar. No mention. It absolutely blows my mind how you and the rest of the preparedness community will absolutely ignore it at all costs. Not because it's not a good idea. Most of it, I guarantee you, is because you know I'm talking about it. And that sumbitch Watchman. It's not about me. Never has been. Not when I started in 2014, and not now in 2024. It's not you either. It's about the people that we are leading. It's sad that you got such a big following. It really is. That goes for the other prepping channels too, the big ones. Y'all can really be helping people. But most of you are just trying to help yourself. That's why you're giving in and doing everything the algorithms want you to do. I can't understand for the life of me the open neglect. Blows my mind. And keep up. Keep up. There's a verse in Hosea that you might want to check out. I believe it's 4:6, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not one of those that can sit there and recite every verse of the Bible from my memory. No, I'm one of the other people that knows what it means. Because from anything I've seen in my life, I have not seen a single person that can sit there and recite verse after verse after verse, damn near word for word out of the good book, and know how to live by it. I got a good buddy of mine. He could probably recite the entire Bible from page 1 to the very last page. Can't follow it for nothing. And he's finally figured that out. He has finally, after decades, 30 years, 3 decades, I've known him that long. The guy I met on the internet, he's finally figured out that just because he can say it doesn't mean he's doing it. And I'm thankful because I love him like a brother. I really do. And it hurt all the times I've seen him take his missteps. And I've tried talking to him, but it took, and I don't know what finally flipped the switch in his head. I'm just glad it flipped. Unfortunately, one of the people that was in his life took their own life. And a big part of it was because of the abuse, and I don't mean physical abuse, biblical abuse more than anything, biblical abuse that he put her under. Because she couldn't do anything that he didn't have some Bible verse to rebuke her with. Remind you of anybody? She was a good woman. She really was. And it's a shame. It's been several years. When My marriage went to hell. I didn't have anywhere to go. He and his wife took me in for a spell. I'm going to be real honest. I had to get the hell out of there. Regardless of how. I had to get the hell out of there. Dead middle of winter, I wouldn't have cared if I had to live in a ditch. I had to get out of there. Why? Because he tried pulling the same crap with me. And it was going to come down to, one hell of a nasty ending if I didn't get away from him. You don't pull that crap with me. I think probably his most pissed off moment was when we were on the way back from church. And I had something I was wanting to do that he didn't necessarily agree or approve or even know the whole story of. And we were on the way back to his place. And he kept trying to tell me what I was and wasn't going to do. And I looked at him and I said, do you think you control me? And all of a sudden, you could just see the anger fill him up. And I said, dude. I said, my dad was already gone, but I said, you should ask my dad about how well that's going to work out for you. I said, because I imagine he's wherever he is right now, laughing his ass off at you. Because the approach you're taking with me is going to have the exact opposite effect of what you intend. He almost wrecked his car. He was so pissed off yanking the wheel. I know how people like that are. A very good buddy. Someone I consider a brother. I hope was like that. I hope it's a was. I really do hope the best, and I hope he comes around, and I hope that Bear comes around. This isn't meant to be some type of a net. No, it's actually meant to be a net positive. We're supposed to rebuke one another when we get out of line. What we're supposed to do. We're not just supposed to walk. And he's got this attitude that it's okay for him, but nobody else. And that's a Pharisee mindset. An absolute Pharisee mindset. It's not about bringing somebody down. It's about lifting them up. But again, my biggest concern are all the people in his back seat that he's taken off the cliff with him. He wants to take himself off the cliff. I'll hand him the car keys. But let everybody out that's in the back seat. Anyway. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I hate to see people stumble because of other people trying to be something that they aren't. It's ridiculous. Here, I'm doing my best not to be someone that I used to be. And you got jackasses like that acting like they're somebody they're not. That invitation is absolutely open. The Watchman News at yahoo.com. Send me a letter. I'll give you my address. Anyway, clear that out. Let's talk about something better. I swear I was about to do a happy dance today when I saw the, it was a headline coming from RT is where I first saw it. And I knew, and in fact I said something I believe last night, that, that's Tucker's there that interviewed Putin. No doubt in my mind. And I'm actually kind of scared for Tucker. I'm going to be honest, I am. I am concerned for Tucker. I like the guy. I really like the guy. And I hope his plane doesn't have any issues or anything on the way back. Because I can only imagine. What people behind the scenes are doing right now. I think Tucker interviewing Putin is probably going to make more of a mark with them than what Trump did on January. Well, what Trump didn't do shit on, he didn't do nothing on January 6th. Trump didn't do nothing. I paid attention to the news that day. I know that Trump was telling people to go home. I know. And I watched it unfold in real time. So I know that it wasn't a matter of him ignoring it and just letting it go on and, No. Trump was on it pretty quick, telling people to go home. That this was not the way to do it. Now, I'm not a fan of Trump. You all know that. But I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm going to tell you what I saw. And I think this interview is actually going to be a bigger slap in the face to, we'll say, the powers that be than even what January 6th was. And I'm not so sure January 6th. In fact, I'm pretty positive it was a setup. I just don't know, to be real honest, if Trump was involved in that setup. Kind of don't think so. I honestly don't think Trump was part of that Trump was doing that. I do think that there were other conservatives that absolutely were, though. But I don't think Trump was. I don't think that's what Trump wanted. And, I'm sure he had a little part of him that would want something like that. Hell, I had a little part of me that would want something like that. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. And what happened? Yes, a woman lost her life. But what happened on the other side? Nothing. I don't even buy all the claims of fear. But this, what Tucker Carlson is doing, is going to make a dent. Because its entire time, and I'm talking about since they went into Ukraine, that Putin went into Ukraine, and I know this has been going on for a decade. This didn't just start. This has actually been going on since, 2014 or whatever? But, in a big way, last few years. But we're not allowed, at least not through our mainstream media, we're not allowed to hear anything from Putin's side whatsoever. But we hear non-stop stuff from Zelensky's side. And I listened a little bit to Luke Rakowski earlier, and he was speaking of this, and he was talking about, and he's absolutely correct, talking about how the U.S. media when they interviewed Zelensky, it's all softball stuff, and it's not really questioning. It's promoting. It's what they're doing. They're like turning an interview with Zelensky into an infomercial. That's not being responsible media. Now, I am with Tucker on this when I say that wanting to hear Putin's side isn't joining his side. It's not taking up his team. But just like I said last night, and in fact I released it as a short video this morning, I believe in getting everybody sitting down at the same table. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? Figuratively. And getting everything out. You know, same goes with these yahoos on YouTube. But you know what? They won't do it. Why is that? Well, watch that shorts video I made this morning, and you'll see why it is they won't do that. I ain't dumb. I ain't naive. I've been around for a day or two, and I know what it looks like when people are bullshitting. As a sheriff once told me, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And I can assure you that I wasn't bullshitting that sheriff that day. I may have walked out of there unscathed, but it wasn't because he bought my line of crap. It was because I was smart enough and the facts were enough in my favor. You know, the facts on paper, so to speak, were enough in my favor that he had nothing. He knew I knew he had nothing. But at the same time, he wanted to let me know what he knew. And I understood. And I indicated that I understood out of respect. Because, to be quite honest, at that moment in time, I respected another bullshitter. I mean, I've had an eventful life. I'm not going to go into detail about all of it, but yeah, Jen has gotten a chance to hear a few stories, a few. A buddy of mine that is back in town. He's been in town for a while. In fact, I mentioned something to him about coming on some night. I'm going to have to say something to him again and get him to come on some night. He would seriously be somebody good just to have a round table kind of conversation with, kind of thing. And me and that guy, we had done a few things. I spoke the other night about an old friend of mine, used to be best friend, that I was wanting to get back in touch with. And I had mentioned the story of what went on with that and how his new fiance had slept with a buddy of mine. That would be the guy I'm talking about. Just saying. We've done a few things, been a few places, and I think it would be an interesting, and I think it would also be an entertaining show, to be kind of honest. And I think you guys would get a kick out of it. And I don't care if he wants to share whatever stories he wants to share. I don't care. But Jen's heard a few, and there's a whole lot more where that came from. And I'm not proud of everything I've done in my past, and at the same time, I don't regret everything I've done in my past, because there are a lot of things that I did that didn't harm another soul. In fact, most of what I did never harmed another soul. I'm not a malicious person. That's not how I tick. But sure did have a whole hell of a lot of fun. Anyway, let me get to this whole Tucker Carlson Putin interview thing and get through the rest of the news this evening. And say sweet nothings to my pillow. Or Blue, if she chooses to. How would you say she does it? She jams herself up against me. I call it the 3-butt bump. Because, like, after she gets her lovin's and gives Jen her kisses and all that, and I tell her, okay, lay down now, it's 3 butt bumps. And, I mean, she's damn near laying on top of me by the time she's done. She almost knocks me off the bed into the wall. And it's hilarious, and she does it every single time, and it's so awesome. And she's just getting as close as she can to me. But she doesn't stay around very long because I toss and turn, and well, that gets her all huffy and puffy, and then she goes, literally huffs and puffs, and then goes and gets on the floor. Anyway, I love that girl. She is so awesome. Earlier tonight, I had to do trash earlier, take it out. And I was talking to Jen, and I was talking about how the dog wasn't taking the trash out. And she was giving me the side eye, and she was kind of like, you know, because she just loves when we talk about her. And then Jen's like, well, how's she supposed to take trash out? She doesn't have opposable thumbs. And she just laying there glaring at me on the blue time. And I said, well, do I need to help her take trash out? And her tail raises straight up in the air. Because the one thing that girl can't hide is her tail. It's hilarious. She'll be glaring at you, wishing death on you, and boy, that tail will be going. Might be just the tip of it a little bit, but she can't hide it. So hilarious. Anyway. Let me get over here. Tucker Carlson reveals Putin interview plans. And I'm going to go over this, and I've got a second article that has to do with this. It says Ukraine conflict has reshaped the military and economic balance of power around the world, but most Americans have no idea because their media has fawned over Vladimir Zelensky and refused to talk to his Russian counterpart, former Fox News host Tucker Carlson said on Tuesday. Carlson, who launched his own network on X in June 2022, posted a short video from Moscow explaining the logic behind his upcoming interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Most Western media outlets are corrupt and lie to their readers and viewers, mainly by omission, Carlson argued. There has been no effort to speak to Putin since the conflict started in 2022, while U.S. outlets have conducted many fawning pep sessions posing as interviews with Zelensky, he added. That's not journalism, it is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people, said Carlson. Because no one has told them the truth. Most people in English-speaking countries are unaware of history-altering developments, according to Carlson. That's wrong. Americans have the right to know all they can about a war that they are implicated in, he added, noting that freedom of speech is the American birthright and can't be taken away no matter who sits in the White House. Carlson reminded his viewers that the U.S. government spied on his text messages in 2021 when he attempted to interview Putin. He urged Americans to watch the entire interview on X, which will not be censored or paywalled, and decide for themselves like a free citizen and not a slave. Carlson was first spotted in Moscow on Saturday, but has played coy about his plans. Asked about the hysterical calls to have him banned from returning to the U.S. or jailed, advanced by some prominent establishment commentators, he called them crazy. The Kremlin has neither confirmed nor denied any plans to have Putin give him an interview to Carlson, telling reporters that any such engagements will be announced in the fullness of time. Carlson was the highest-rated evening cable show host in the U.S. when he was fired by Fox last April without explanation. He has since returned as one of the most popular interviewers on X, the formerly censorious platform Musk bought in 2022. Right on, Steve. I hear you there, man. I hear you there about falling asleep. I wish I could just really get good rest. And it's not possible. Hopefully, someday soon. I'm still taking Benadryl when I go to bed to help me go out. But, I don't know how long those stay active or whatnot, effective, I should say, in my system. But I know that if I get up about 4 o'clock, or any time after about 4 o'clock, there is no going back to bed. I will sit there and I will toss and turn. Once in a while, I might be able to get another half an hour, 45 minutes at the most. But normally, anything after about 4 a.m., I'm up. Much was that way today. But I did get some gorgeous pictures today. Gorgeous, gorgeous pictures. However, one of them I'm going to show you is one that I got to playing with because I learned a little bit more when it comes to, let me make sure this is the one. Yeah, I love it. Luckily, someone that I know local here gave me a few pointers on Adobe Lightroom. And so I got to playing with it a little bit more, learning a little bit more about the software. And let me get the right screen here. I actually shoved it off to the wrong side. So anyway, I got to playing with the softwares, and this is what I wound up doing. What my issue was is because I love to get I like to pop out those colors, just the awesome colors of the sky. That was actually this morning's sunrise. But when I do that, it bleeds color all across the landscape as well. And that just, to me, it looks unappealing and doesn't look right. And so I was figuring out how to use masking. And then she encouraged me to play around with curves in Lightroom to really get my colors to pop exactly how I want them. And well, you're looking at the results of me just tinkering around a little bit earlier today. And I thought, man, the black and white town looks really cool with that colorful sunrise. And so it's awesome. I was going to get a sunset picture, but it wasn't a really colorful sunset this evening. So I still got juice. Well, I've got a full battery and 3/4 of a battery. For the Mavic Air 2, so I'm sure I'll be up before sunrise, and I'll try to get another round of good pictures. But I'm learning. That's the whole mission. Learn, learn, learn. So anyway, let me get Windows back. So I know where I'm at and what I'm doing. Well, wait a minute. I never know what I'm doing. Okay. Let me have a sip of tea. Thank you, Steve. All right. Carlson reveals Musk's Putin interview pledge. I thought this was kind of interesting too. Not that I ever doubted it for a second, but, well, I'll read the article. It said billionaire owner of X, Elon Musk, has pledged not to censor Tucker Carlson's interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin when it is posted on the platform, the American journalist claimed in a video he posted from Moscow on Tuesday. Carlson has been in Moscow for at least 4 days, sparking rumors that he planned to interview the Russian president. He confirmed his intention in the video, which has received over 260,000 likes. He praised Musk for his pledge not to block or suppress the interview once we posted on his platform X, confirming that the video would be available without a paywall to anyone who chose to watch it on the journalist's own website as well. And I praised Tucker for that. I want to see it. Absolutely. Western governments, by contrast, will certainly do their best to censor this video on other less principled platforms because that's what they do. They are afraid of information they can't control, the journalist continued, encouraging Americans to watch the interview in order to educate themselves on the history-altering developments unfolding in Russia and Ukraine. And I want to make a connection here. You got all these content creators that tell you flat out about how they delete and block people. Is that any different? Is that any different? Because it's not. Because it's not. It's not about freedom of speech. Has nothing to do with freedom of speech. Everything to do with a lack of integrity, everything to do with a lack of honesty, and concealing. Because here's the deal. If you let everybody speak your mind in the comments, absolutely you can speak your mind in my comments. I'm not going to stop anybody. Because if you're really doing a good job, you're going to have many more people speaking positive than speaking negative. And once again, just like Tucker is approaching this, let people decide for themselves. But when somebody goes to anywhere, whether it be mainstream media and them discussing the U.S. government or Ukraine or anything like that, it's no different. People go to a YouTube channel and you're presenting a false image that everybody that listens to you just absolutely loves you and you can do no wrong. That is wrong on so many levels. Not anything to do with freedom of speech. And if you're so great, what are you afraid of? Anyway, it says after assuming control of what was then called Twitter in late 2022, Musk famously partnered with a group of journalists to release internal communications that were widely accepted as proof that multiple U.S. government agencies had been unconstitutionally suppressing the spread of narratives they found undesirable on social media, just like the content creators are doing. Musk's decision to allow numerous prominent banned users back on X, including former U.S. President Donald Trump and, more recently, InfoWars host Alex Jones, was praised by free speech advocates, including Carlson. The former Fox News host launched an independent talk show streaming on X last year after he was unceremoniously fired from hosting the #1 primetime show in the U.S. for various reasons that have still not been made public. While Musk presented himself as a free speech absolutist when he buying the platform, X has significantly increased its compliance with government content takedown requests since his takeover, honoring 80% of such orders compared to 50% under his predecessors. according to a report published last year by the tech outlet Rest of the World. Now, I don't know if I believe that. This has not stopped Western governments, including the EU, from demanding he crack down on disinformation and hate speech, threatening severe penalties for non-compliance. Now wait, that could be accurate, because there are things that you shouldn't be allowed to say. It's not a matter of free speech, right? When you're threatening people, when you cross that line, that's no longer free speech. So there are certain things that, again, aren't covered under free speech. And the only reason why I say that could be correct is because one side, before Musk bought it, was completely unchecked. They could say, do anything they wanted, and nothing would happen. Now, as far as I can see, everybody's got to play by the rules. And it doesn't matter if you're left, if you're right, it doesn't matter. You got to play by the rules. And so, I mean, there may be an increase in content being taken down. But I don't think it's an increase as far as control over what people can say. And in fact, I can guarantee it's not. Because people have been able to talk more openly on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, since he took over. I mean, look, Tucker Carlson's there, saying what he wants to say. You know, I mean, I know a lot of individuals. Luke Radowski, We Are Change. You know, he doesn't hold back on X. He's not having his content struck down. So I can't sit here and say that, oh, I know for a fact that there's not more content being taken down today, because there may be. Maybe now it is actually an equal and fair playing field. I don't know. Honestly don't know. I do know I can't wait for this interview to hit. We're supposedly going to be getting it absolutely unedited, unaltered. And Luke Radkowski had said earlier today that, what was it, 2 hours and 15 minutes or something like that, I think, is what word is that he's gotten, that we're looking at like 2 hours and 15 minutes or so of an interview. So, wow. Wow. And again, I'm not on Putin's side. I'm not picking a side on this, but I do want to hear what the man has to say. I have a feeling we're all going to learn a whole lot. Really good feeling of that. So this, I'm kind of... I mean, I have to understand, even when this was very first mentioned, and I'm speaking U.S. Border and Immigration Chief survives impeachment vote, even from the first moment it was mentioned, it was not intended to be something that would actually result in anything significant, right? We're talking a procedural slap on the hand, and that's that. Which I always ask, okay, well then what's the point? What's the point? But, anyway, he survived the impeachment vote. You know, the vote that wouldn't have done anything anyway. Here's what the article says. U.S. House of Representatives has voted against impeaching Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas on Tuesday. The Republicans have accused Mayorkas of failing to deal with the influx of migrants illegally crossing the border with Mexico. The motion to bring impeachment charges was defeated in a 214 to 216 vote. Four Republicans joined the Democrats in refusing to back the ouster. According to The Hill, the Republicans had expected that two of their colleagues would vote no. However, two more House GOP lawmakers, Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin and Blake Moore of Utah, voted against the motion as well. Moore switched his vote to no second before the vote closed, the Hill reported. Another Republican, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, was away for a medical treatment and missed the vote. The Republicans have argued that Mayorkas has failed to enforce the law in order to secure the southern border. The Democrats countered by insisting that the Secretary did not commit anything that would warrant his removal. So, I'm also interested in another bit of content that's going to be coming out by Glenn Beck. Right, I agree. Steve says he's tired of the legislator writing illegal laws and force the public to correct it. Absolutely. Glenn Beck is supposed to be releasing a video here soon that is going to show people how they're all getting duped, both the left and the right. And I've been saying that for how long? Every time I hear somebody say the stuff, military-aged males and fentanyl, well, as I've already said, the fentanyl's not coming across the southern border on one of these people's backs. The fentanyl is coming on a plane from China. I don't know what else to tell people. They're not smuggling fentanyl across the southern border. It's coming in from China on a plane. Same thing with the heroin, by the way. You know, back when we were in Afghanistan and all that all the time. Yeah. I wonder where all that was coming. Oh, yeah. Yep. On a plane, not across the southern border. So this whole military-aged male thing. You know, every time I saw somebody posting a picture, and nothing but military, I could sit there and point out woman, child, woman, child, woman, child. Now, to be fair, there were more young male adults in the crowd. But let me explain to you what many of them do. And I'm not backing in any way illegal immigration at all. I'm just as much against it as anybody else. But I am not for lying about it. So what many of them do is, yes, the young adult males will come up here. They will find work, and they come up here in the caravans, which, believe it or not, is not a very pleasant way to go about things. And what they will do is they will make money, and then they will send that money, some of that money, back home so that their family can come up in a more suitable way, where they're not in the caravans, where they're not trying to sneak across the border kind of deal. I'm not saying all of them do it, but there's a whole lot of them that do. It's been that way for a really long time. It's not nothing new. People are lying to emotionally manipulate you so that you'll run to the ballot box and demand more. And they're largely successful at it, if you hadn't noticed. So I can't wait till Glenn Beck releases that video as well. Thought this was interesting. UK must tackle left-wing extremist, says former Prime Minister. And I'm not a fan of politicians, but I applaud her for calling it out as it is. Left-wing extremists. Former British Prime Minister Liz Truss has accused Rishi Sunak's government of seeking to appease left-wing extremists, which she argues are gaining influence in British institutions. Truss, speaking on Tuesday in London at the launch of the new popular conservatism, or PopCons movement, said that many Britons are secret conservatives but are afraid to out themselves as such. This subset of people, Truss reasoned, must be galvanized in order to prevent a damaging divide between lawmakers and voters who think the wokery going on is nonsense. I'm afraid we have not taken on the left enough, Truss told attendees, including former UKIP and Brexit Party, now Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, and ex-cabinet member Jacob Rees-Mogg. She added that for 2 decades the Conservative Party had mistakenly sought to appease left-wing ideology. Among the goals of the PopCons political movement are to put pressure on the Sunak government to adopt more hardline conservative policies ahead of the general election expected to take place this year. These include more robust immigration laws, lower taxes, and a commitment to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. In her keynote address, Truss claimed that British lawmakers do not want to support these types of policies because they don't want to be unpopular. However, the irony is that these policies are popular, she said. Truss also cited her own personal experience of never being invited to London dinner parties as an example of a conservative ideology being incompatible with expanding societal left-wing influence. Well, there's a large amount of truth to what she's saying. Even here in the United States, there are a large subset of people that are kind of just not being real outward with what's going on because of what's happening to everybody that is outward. Well, the more people that they intimidate, the bigger that they're going to get. Because more and more people will wind up in the same boat. Well, we better not speak out against the left, because if we speak out against the left, well, then we'll be a target too. And you've got a snowball effect. And you may have a bunch of closet conservatives and never know it. You know, and I'm not saying that they're jumping ship and going to vote for the left. I'm not saying that. But I'll bet you that many of them aren't even going to vote as a result of it. And more damaging, they're not speaking out. We have to speak. I'm not even a conservative. I'm just a man with common sense. And only one gender. And no pronouns. We have to start speaking out. As I've said way longer ago, before even doing a news show, I was screaming at people that if we don't speak up now, if we don't do something now, if we don't sacrifice a little now, we're going to have to sacrifice a lot later. Well, guess what? We're at later now. And right now, yes, we have to sacrifice a whole hell of a lot more than what we would have 15 years ago when I was screaming it. But we at least still have a shot if we continue on the path that we are. There's no hope. We have to speak. We have to stand. And we have to get loud. Just the way it is. Or we just hand the entirety of society right on over to them. I mean, you've got the one guy in Silicon Valley. What was he a part of? Gosh, I can't remember what he was a part of. starting or running or something like that. But the guy is pushing for different. I read about an article where he's pushing transhumanism and using, enhancement drugs for sports. It's kind of like a special type of Olympics. It's like a whacked out, messed up, drugged up transhumanist Olympics is essentially what he's after. I can't remember the name of the guy. I can't remember what company he's with, or at least was with. I can't remember. But I think it was yesterday I covered that. I could be wrong. I think it was yesterday. That's where we're heading. So this is encouraging. Spanish farmers joined the protest over EU regulations. Says Spanish farmers blocked several major highways nationwide on Tuesday, and with the latest protest by agricultural workers in a European country against rising costs, taxes, and European Union bureaucracy. You say it. The latest farmers' protest following similar demonstrations in Germany, France, Belgium, and other EU countries, with much of their ire directed at EU regulations that, they contend, harms their abilities to earn a living in an overly competitive marketplace. With different shades in the whole of the EU, we have the same problems. Donaciano Dujo, Vice President of Spanish Agricultural Advocacy Group, ASAJA, told, and I know, ASAJA, it's ASAJA, told broadcaster TVE. I tried. Ahead of the union the union-led protest planned for Thursday, many farmers mobilized tractors across the country on Tuesday to stage mass blockades that gridlocked numerous traffic thoroughfares across Spain. Affected areas include Seville and Granada in the south of the country, as far as Girona in the country's north, close to the French border, Reuters said on Tuesday, citing local traffic authorities. Chief among the farmers' complaints is the EU policies imposed to protect the environment harms their abilities to compete with agricultural producers from Latin America or from non-EU countries. We spend more time dealing with paperwork than in the field, one farmer, Eva Garcia, told Reuters. Garcia added that the EU's common agricultural policy was choking us. On Tuesday, in what was viewed as a concession by Brussels, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the bloc intends to remove a controversial law designed to reduce the use of pesticides, describing the legislation as a symbol of polarization. So largely what, is also going on here is a lot of the farmers that are getting affected by this aren't the big corporate farmers. Okay, it's your average everyday farmers that you're used to. They're the ones being squeezed by this. The corporate farmers are not, which is, by the way, the intent. And it's not just happening in farming, it's also in property management. It's getting a big hit right now, too. And you're having a lot of landlords, smaller landlords, your average small-time landlords, getting squeezed out because of this regulation and that regulation and all this other stuff. And, you got these companies, like BlackRock, for example, that are pushing out all the smaller people. And that's bad news for everybody. St. Louis just did on one of their news channels, just did a report the other day I was reading. And it's crazy because there's a whole bunch, I think it was thousands, it said. There are thousands of people in the St. Louis area facing eviction. And many of them didn't even do anything wrong. Like in many of the cases, they weren't even late for rent or anything else, but they got a notice saying they were late for rent. And even though they weren't even late by a single day, in a week's time, they had to come up with over $2,000 more than what their rent was And in many of those cases, they still got evicted. They just had to pay that bill. And who's doing it? Not your little landlords, not your average landlords. It was your big property management companies that can afford the really expensive lawyers, that can write up the really BS contracts. And there's an epidemic of this happening in St. Louis right now. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I stand up for the smaller landlords, too. Because I will. I'll stand behind the smaller landlords, as long as they're a good landlord. Like, we've got an incredible landlord. Yes, I know there's slumlords out there, and no, I will not stand up for a slumlord. But the problem with property management is it doesn't matter how good of a guy or girl that you are. You're going to have people that try to take advantage of you, and when they can't take advantage of you, it doesn't matter how good or a bad person you are. They're going to claim you're the worst person on earth. And that's just kind of, unfortunately, part of the job. Something goes with it. And it's probably been that way for longer than I've been alive. But it's really bad now. The other reason you're seeing the big push, too, where they're trying to push the people to start going against the landlords and stuff. Expecting the landlords not to be able to even be able to pay their bills because for some reason they shouldn't own that property and be able to rent out that property. And all. I don't understand the logic of the left. I don't understand it, but anywho, UK bypassing own ban on Russian oil, says a study. Yeah, that's going on, and the EU's doing pretty much the same with aluminum. So, and hey, just so that the United States isn't left out, we're doing the same thing with uranium. No big deal. Oh, and oil. Don't forget oil. Oil and uranium. Oh, Russia's got a pass to sell us as much of that as we can load up. But they're bad guys. I am really interested in what Putin has to say with Tucker Carlson. I really am. Alright, let's read some headlines and get on out of here. Pardon me. Boeing standards progressively declining, says top airline boss. I'm just kind of curious what his first clue is. Russian gasoline production fell in January, says Kommersant. Scandal hit Ukraine-born Miss Japan winner gives up crown. Orban's party boycotts NATO expansion vote. Biden recalls recent meeting with long-dead French leader. EU state may ban government workers from Facebook, says media. Ukraine spy chief asks Canada for decommissioned rockets. I'll take a few. Oh, by the way, and they said in that article that we know that it's risky to transport them, but we're not concerned about that. Well, why don't you ask the people that have to transport it if they're concerned about it? Clearly, the leadership of Ukraine isn't concerned about anybody's well-being. Zelensky to fire his top general's deputies, says MP. EU can't ban Russian aluminum, says Politico. Told ya. Lack of growth making Germany poorer, says Foreign Minister. What? I updated that. Oh. Okay. I guess there was an issue. Okay, no big deal. 6 wounded in Istanbul shooting. UK dismisses calls for Irish unity vote. Ukraine's top general sparing neo-Nazis from frontline slaughter, says ex-CIA analyst. U.S. tells EU state not to glorify Holocaust participants. Houthis target UK-owned ship in Red Sea, says AP. Sweden to close Nord Stream sabotage probe, says German media. Why wrap that up? McDonald's and Starbucks say Gaza conflict is hurting business. Yeah, because that's the only thing that matters is your bottom line. I read that one. Ukraine promises to destroy Europe's longest bridge this year. Singapore law allows indefinite detention of dangerous offenders. Trump not immune from J6 lawsuit, says U.S. court. Russia slams France's dangerous Ukraine stance. Israeli minister apologizes for son's dementia comment about Biden. Biden threatens to veto GOP Israel aid bill. Just hand him an ice cream, he'll forget all about it. EU in no rush to seize Russian assets, says commissioner. UK must tackle left-wing extremists, says I covered that one. This was an opinion article here, but I went ahead and shared it. Pardon me, because it was wholly accurate, and it was a good read. Words that kill: how Western spin doctors dehumanize select peoples to justify war. And they're doing that actually within their own nations as well. Not just with other nations, but also with their own people in their own country. Biden demands Congress pass Ukraine funding. Italian politician demands chemical castration for rapists. Argentina to move embassy in Israel, says president. Trudeau accused of lying about inviting World War II Nazi veteran to Zelensky event. U.S. state moves to ban hog tying by police. So there you go. Those would be the headlines. I am going to jimmy out the back door. No, not really. I've already got my jammies on. I am going to go to bed. Anyway, I hope you all have a good evening. I'm trying to count how many times we've swirled around the toilet bowl just to get an estimate of when we're going to be flushed. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. I hope you all have a good evening. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate you coming tonight. I hope to see you tomorrow. And as always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.